Welcome to the Skandalaris Center, the hub of innovation and entrepreneurship at Washington University in St. Louis. Today, we're here to learn and have some fun with two creative troublemakers. We have Andrew Sachs, who will be interviewing film and commercial director Frederick Bond. Andrew Sachs is a graduate of Washington University, a successful entrepreneur who claims that everything he needed to succeed in business he learned working in the American theater. He is an investor in commercial and multifamily real estate, the president of Gateway Parking Services, the founder of Rocket Gourmet, a co-founder of Lincoln Center Theaters, Directors Lab West, and responsible for more flops than he would like to admit. And also we have the film and commercial director, Frederick Bond, is a master storyteller. Mr. Bond has created commercials for Apple, Adidas, Guinness, Heineken, H&M, Levi's, to name but a few. He also directed a feature film, The Necessary Death of Charlie Countryman. The list of stars he has worked with includes David Beckham, Kevin Hart, Shia LaBeouf, Jason Statham. He has a long list of distinguished awards and accolades to attest to his achievements. And now a word from our sponsors.
It's hard to hope, hard to cope with crisis. But while we might be all alone, we've never been more tightly tethered because we'll only weather this unknown together. So we get to work. We mend, we don't break even when we bend. Somewhere, another mom pays her bills. Somewhere, another child eats his fill. We were the world's neighbors, making our communities brighter, greater, fighting for every person in the neighborhood. We, the coming of the common good, so dare to care, to be hope-sighted. We're never divided, for when we live to give, we always live united.
Okay, stop this now. Thank you for joining us. My name is Andrew Sachs. I'm a WashU graduate who can't find my notes. Give me a second. Here we go. I'm a WashU graduate. I'm an economic bungee jumper by trade. That is to say, I'm an entrepreneur. I have a number of flops, some of them spectacular belly flops. Fortunately, I've had more successes than failures, but my hope is that you can learn from my mistakes and the mistakes of my friends, which is much better than learning from your own, which brings us to creative troublemakers. Hopefully, this will be the first in a series of conversations and activations about the nature of work and what it means to be an entrepreneur. How we define work has changed significantly since WashU tossed me out into the mean streets of the marketplace, oh, so many years ago. And it will continue to evolve as you enter the workplace, and work will no doubt look very different from today by the time you're my age. When we think about what it means to be an entrepreneur, kind of the VC Shark Tank model comes to mind. Start with a big idea, answer some hard to answer problem, pitch it to a VC, get validation, get money, get to work, make it big. But I've learned the hard way that entrepreneurialism is so much more than that, which is why I thought it would be great to interview experts in their field, people at the top of their game who may not at first glance consider themselves to be an entrepreneur. So it is my pleasure to introduce film and TV commercial director Frederick Bond. This is a man who single-handedly bummed out the entire TV audience of 161 million people for the 49th Super Bowl in 2015 by killing a 10-year-old boy on live TV. He cast Kevin Hart to play David Beckham in I, Beckham the movie, and he claims his greatest career challenge was teaching Jason Statham how to dance. He will tell you that he is a TV commercial director and a Hollywood film director, but in my mind, he is every inch an entrepreneur. Frederick?
Hi. Yeah, I guess you're right. Thanks for that introduction. Yeah, it's I guess you're right. I never thought of myself as an entrepreneur, or at least in the beginning, I never really thought about being an entrepreneur. But I think by doing what I love and investing in what I love and putting time into what I love, I'm per automatic an entrepreneur. You know?
Yeah, and I would actually argue, Frederick, it goes deeper. every time you do a commercial, you have to pitch it. You have the big idea, you got to pitch it, you got to get it approved, you got to get the money.
Yeah.
And then the real work begins. You got to put it all together. You have to make it work for, the budget. You have to literally go on set. You got to find the set. You got to pull a whole business together, right? And then deliver it, and hopefully that it succeeds. And as soon as you're done,
On to the
you're on to
next.
the next. So you are a serial entrepreneur because you're doing. How many commercials do you do a year?
But I feel like I have the best job in the world, and I have so much fun doing it. So I don't see my job as a job, or I think I don't see myself as an entrepreneur for that reason too. I feel like this just for me, it's just a pleasure, to go to work.
But shouldn't that be the case for anybody, running a business, being an entrepreneur?
I think so, yeah.
Look, I love doing parking garages. I never thought that would be something that would, turn me on, get me excited, get me get up out of bed in the morning. I would have much rather than directing live theater right now. But, I found a way to love what I do just like you do, right? So I think that's a valuable lesson.
And you're also super creative with your real estate and your parking garage, and you do so much things outside of that within that structure. So it's really fun to hear about your adventures too, I must say.
Yeah, absolutely. But you're a lot more exciting than me, so we're going to focus on you today.
I don't know. I might shift this to you today.
No, you'll see people drink.
I'll do my best.
Okay. Me and Cyril has to stay. So, an entrepreneur, especially when you're getting out of school, you gotta get started, right? It's not like you can just go, oh, here's my idea, and I'm off to the races. So when you were a young man bouncing around the streets of Stockholm,
I'm still young.
In heart, yes, absolutely.
And more here, yeah.
But when you were a young man and you were like, okay, like, what was your dream, and how did you figure out to get there, to get that started?
I think it was a pure passion for the medium, for film, for TV, and for commercials. Quite frankly, I was as a young teenager, I was obsessed with English commercials. So anytime we would go on holiday breaks to England, family friends in England, I would record on the VCR the commercial breaks because they were so brilliant. We didn't have that kind of commercials in Sweden for a long time. We had the sort of bread and butter traditional commercials, but we didn't have this sort of short form storytelling, 30 or 60 seconds, really fun stories with characters and witty payoffs and really smart advertising. And there was one in particular which really blew my mind, which was for The Guardian. We should actually have shown that. We have a reel with some stuff that we're going to show you guys later, but that's one that really inspired me. It was a commercial for The Guardian, the magazine, the newspaper, The Guardian, which showed a skinhead running down the street towards an old lady, and it showed the skinhead from a few different angles. We cut to another angle after a few seconds, and then another, and by the last angle, we realized that he was actually saving this woman from a construction site that was collapsing over her. I don't know if you remember this. It's a very famous commercial. And as a matter of fact, I'm staying in the guy's house who made that commercial. I just realized just now we're just borrowing his home in, and that's why I kind of thought about it. But that film to me was like so inspiring and opened my mind that you can do so much with this short form. So it's really stayed with me. And so for a long time, I went to, on holiday breaks, I went and recorded these commercials. And my father was a TV producer. So he had some equipment down in the basement. and I brought it back and I edited my own little short stories, short films with this material, these commercials. I put together my own little scenes in this editing equipment. So I didn't do the traditional go out and film on Super 8 or any other format and did my own little scenes. I actually stole material and put it together. So quite quickly I realized that I loved editing, so I got into editing and started to edit for other directors, and that was sort of my trajectory eventually into directing. So one of the directors I was working for didn't have time to do commercials. So he said, "You seem to know which shots you need, so why don't you do it?" So that was
okay. So I want to stop there for a second. So you're a young man and you loved commercials, and I kind of ran past the section that I wanted to do, which is I would love for everyone here to take 30 seconds, tell us your name, major, awesome. Why you're here when you could be anywhere else in a nice Friday afternoon. Your favorite commercial from childhood. We know what Frederik's was. Mine was Mikey, he'll eat anything. I don't know if anything knows that life commercial, but that was my favorite. And where you expect to be in 30 years. And Cyril, why don't you kick us off? I'm just going to call your names out as I see them. Just be ready. Cyril?
There we go, Andrew. So I'm Cyril Loom, Assistant Director of Venture Development at the Skandalaris, helping students, alums with their business ideas and developing their business. And my favorite commercial of all time is the Michael Jordan commercial, in which is in competition with Larry Bird. And I just love that commercial.
Good one.
Sydney.
I'm Sydney Everett, Marketing Communications Specialist at the Skandalaris Center. Sorry, I was stumbling because I'm trying to think of like my favorite commercial. I'm going to be honest, you all being like quality directors might not think this is such a great commercial, but that Puppy Monkey Baby commercial from the Super Bowl a few years ago is one that just like I find myself saying all the time, like to my dog. So it's just one that sticks with me.
Nice. Aaron Taylor.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Aaron Taylor. I'm actually a first-year student here at WashU. Currently planning on studying marketing, but I haven't completely decided yet. Favorite commercial that I can remember, I really liked the NBA Jingle Hoops commercial from like, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago. So
nice.
Awesome.
Yoel, I can't read your that. Gyoko? How do I pronounce it wrong? I'm sure.
Yes. Hi, I'm Yoel. I'm also a freshman here at WashU. I'm studying organization and strategic management and film. So I've always been really interested in filmmaking, and I find this conversation very fascinating. And I'm just looking to explore different avenues of film and kind of just expose myself to as much as possible. In terms of favorite commercial, I'm really not sure. I think I didn't really grow up watching TV. I watched more YouTube, so I don't know if I can really speak to a TV commercial, but I definitely will learn a lot more today. And in 30 years, I hope to run my own company and maybe do something with film as well. So I'm also very grateful to be a intern at the Skandalaris Center here doing some video editing for them. So thank you to Mike and the
Real quick, what would that company do, Yoel?
What would that company be? It might be a video production company. It could also be something about data ethics, because I'm also pretty passionate about that. So like the implications of technology, things like that.
Mary May Ma.
Hello, I'm Mary May. I'm PMP and film major on campus. So the reason that brought me here is that I want to make short films, and temporarily I'm working on my short documentary about mental health on campus. And I've been making several short films, but I aspire to make feature-length films in the future by working with a director, so I can learn hand-on, learn from him or her, like through a first-hand experience. I think the commercials I like about Coca-Cola's, because every time I sit down in a cinema, I stare on the screen and I found them the Coca-Cola commercials stand out the most to me, because I feel like I want every time, if I didn't buy anything in the theater, I want to buy Coca-Cola after watching the commercial on screen. After 30 years, I hope I can be an independent filmmaker, and maybe I have produced several feature-length films that maybe motivate changes in society. Thank you.
Nice. Hassan, I see your video's not on, but do you want to tell us about you?
Yeah, so I'm Hassan. I'm an MBA graduate, WashU alum 2020. Working for a startup in Austin. Just moved there recently. What else? And my favorite commercial, I don't watch a lot of commercials, but my favorite one is it's a bunch of them. It's a series of Pepsi commercials, and I like them because they have all these like famous soccer players. What else? I don't have 30 years, so maybe in 3-5 years I'm older. Maybe in 3-5 years I hope that I will start my own company. So definitely not waiting 30 years.
Awesome.
Who else we have here? Nancy, why don't you tell us about you while you're here?
Hi, I'm Nancy. I am the Communications and Events Manager with the Skandalaris Center. And my very favorite commercial that I quote all the time is, "You got your chocolate in my peanut butter." No, you got your peanut butter in my chocolate. And those of you who are too young to know, this was a commercial introducing Reese's peanut butter cups to the world. So, hey, what a better, and also my favorite candy.
Yeah, my favorite candy too. Okay, so is there anyone else that I left off that would like to introduce themselves? Leah Bond, how about you?
Hi, I'm Frederick's daughter. I'm sorry about my background. I'm actually on a train right now, but I'm a freshman. I am undecided, but I think I'm double majoring PMP and business. I'm here because I look up to my dad very, very much. And I genuinely wish to do something that makes me as happy as my dad's job makes him when I'm older. And I honestly think one of my favorite commercials is probably my dad's, what's it called? Heineken commercials. I think it's called maybe something date, maybe The Date. I like it because I think it's comedic, but in a very nice, well done way. And in where I see myself, I don't really know, but I really want to do something that makes me happy when be an entrepreneur, do something that makes me happy when I'm older. And that's a big part of why I look up to my dad.
Nice. And sitting next to Leah, we have Chloe Sachs. So Chloe, who's my daughter, can jump in too, or she just disappear maybe.
She's hard at work on her math homework, I think.
Okay, very good. Tell her to do her homework.
Classic.
And Mike,
Classic.
you're the last one on the hot seat, and then we're gonna get moving with embarrassing Leah and Frederick and
yeah, just an honor to host Andrew and Frederick today for this conversation. So I'm the Associate Director in the Skandalaris Center, have the privilege to be able to work with some of you here on the screen, and Yoel being an innovation intern. Would love to be able to see the passion for all that you bring, and happy that this resonates with you. Looking at the creativity opportunity to get involved with the Skandalaris Center beyond innovation and entrepreneurship. And that's why it's such a great honor to be able to work with Frederick and Andrew today. My favorite commercial that I've seen a lot, because my kids love it lately, is a Evian water commercial. They start dancing in front of a glass, and it turns them into a baby. So they're seeing little babies dancing, I think maybe to Dance Monkey, but my kids love the song, love seeing other babies on a screen. So that would be my favorite. In 30 years, I just hope to have more entrepreneurial successes, to keep helping entrepreneurs and to be able to feed that passion. It's just something special to be able to work with an entrepreneur, an innovator, developing something that they really care about. So thank you for everybody that's here with us today.
Sure. Did I leave anybody out? Jump in now or forever stay silent. Okay, so what I'd like to do now is play Frederick's, I think, first commercial, and then we can go from there. So hopefully everyone's seeing this. Shout if you're not. You see this, Mike? Good, okay. Okay, so Frederick, oh, hold on, let's stop that. Frederick, so
Yes.
Volvo hired you to do this commercial, and this was your first commercial. This is your first paid gig. Is that the deal?
No,
So tell us.
I made that film on my own dime. It was completely, I put all the money I had into that. At the time, I was working sort of out of work, but I had a bit of work as an editor. I had saved together maybe $5,000-6,000, and I put it all into this commercial. And I thought it was a great idea, and I thought Volvo cannot refuse to not broadcast this and not to take this in. So I was super excited about doing this idea, and so me and 3 friends and these 3 actors spent a day on the countryside outside Stockholm and shot this, and finished it and went down to Volvo and presented it to them and said, listen, we have an awesome commercial for you guys. We think this will be a great success for you. We turned on the commercial, and all the Volvo people in the room turned completely quiet. And
so they didn't.
It was at least a silence for a couple of minutes afterwards. And they looked at each other and said, if you ever show this commercial, something in the line of you will never work in this town again, they said. Basically.
But now that we've shown it, you will never work in Stockholm, so can't go home.
They basically said Sachs and Volvo is not it doesn't work together. We do not want this to be associated to anything. But then I managed to persuade them and get them to there was a magazine, a commercial magazine that was presenting all the wildest commercial around the world. Every second month, this magazine came out as a video tape, collecting all the most out there commercials. And I got this film in there, and I persuaded them to actually let me broadcast it there. So that sort of threw me into my coming directing gigs, basically. So they were very nice of seeing between the fingers to let me do that. But no, so it was not a job per se. It was something I came up with myself, and then it sort of kickstart from there. But and at that time it was very expensive because you had to shoot on film. I wanted it to look really good, so I had to shoot on 35mm film, develop it, and we had to do grading, which is the coloring of the film. So that's also very expensive. So all the technique cost, so nobody was paid, of course, but all the technique cost about $5,000 to $6,000. And today you can do all that you could do within this machine, which I think is just so fantastic.
Right. So it wouldn't cost anything for someone to create the kind of disruption that you were looking for to kind of kickstart your career.
Yeah, exactly. And, I loved film, but I always were fascinated about these commercials, these 60 or 30-second commercials, which didn't necessarily were selling a product, but they had a point of view and had something to say or something. And that's where my interest in commercials started. I never wanted to do a commercial that only just did a selling but then over the years, of course, I've done those as well, but it all started with trying to make the most provocative commercial or different commercial that could ever get on air. That's where my challenge and my sort of love for this profession started, really.
Great. So what I love about this from an entrepreneur's point of view is you created the opportunity. It was the big idea. You showed people, you bluffed your way into that, into the door, into the room, got some attention. I remember you telling me that, people in America were like, oh, that Volvo commercial you did. And you were kind of mum about the fact that, well, actually Volvo didn't pay me to do that, right? And, what was great is when once you did that, you got in the door, but you were ready to just, go out the other side. You were prepared to move on to that next level, So I for me, looking at it from an entrepreneurial point of view, I think there's a beautiful lesson in there. It's like, take your chance, but be smart about it. You took a huge risk. Volvo could have sued you into dust if they wanted to, right? And you were able to then leverage that into something. But when you did, you were at a point in your career, you had edited, you've been around the business enough that you were ready to step into the director's chair. Would you say that that's a fair assessment?
Yeah, no, I think so. But at the same time, I was never scared that they would, really sue me or anything. I thought, I think when you're young and you're enthusiastic, you get away with so much. I think the sheer energy and enthusiasm around something, I think, opened doors to so many things. And I think that it's if you have a true passion for something, and you express that, and you can light up the room and make anybody buy anything, I think, and embark on your vision. I think it's important to, still today, I think it's important to really push yourself. And I got to remind myself to push myself so you don't get too complacent and comfortable. I think the biggest rewards is always when you go into things. You have to think a little bit, of course, but not having the final goal all staked out. Everything will change along the path. But if you have sort of a light in the horizon, go towards that, and you can't fail.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. Have a path and be prepared to, wherever life takes you, take the side road if that's, where you need to go or what that.
Yeah, exactly. So I did a few of those little spec commercials, and the next one that you're going to show is another one of those sort of, how can we make something that's around milk, that makes people realize that milk is out there, and you can actually use it as a drink, but something that's a little bit disruptive again. That was always my ambition, to try and find and look for things that hadn't been done. So that was the other piece for milk here that we did.
Well, I'll play this now, and I particularly love this because Leia, who's on this call, is a terrific piano player, and now I know how she learned. Sorry, Leia. And I think that's great. But one of the things, besides being funny and telling a great story, is that just from a straight out storytelling point of view, you in a very short period of time, you tell a great story, right? You don't have to hear it, you can see it, exactly what that is, and it's right on the message, right? That's not easy to do. I'm guessing that when you started and you were showing your reel, that creative directors saw something in you because of what you created for those, those little budgets, and using your imagination?
Well, I think it's I think all the advertising agencies and brands out there, they want to see something fresh. They want to position themselves in a new light. So there's always a market for that, and I think that goes with any business.
Yeah, that's exactly.
And I think Mary May actually have a question here. How we got about the I guess it was the Volvo commercial you're wondering about, how we got the inspiration.
Yes.
How we got inspiration.
Go ahead and ask the question.
Yeah. So Mary May is asking here, I wonder how you got the inspiration for this commercial. Did you run into any challenging when shooting it? Did you learn something new? Well, I guess the film was a little bit of a piss take on the Seventh Seal, Ingmar Bergman's movie. So I wanted to. So the guy behind the car pushing down the car is actually death. So I wanted to make a little spin on that, and create a sex scene in a Volvo, and where the man realizing that he's all safe once he realizing that he's actually inside a Volvo, even though it's going to be a horrendous crash. But I think that I think so there was a few different. I wanted to do something dark. I wanted to do something funny around sex and around Ingmar Bergman's Seventh Seal. That was my inspirations for this, and if we had any challenges during when shooting it, well, it was. I would say the time. It was shot in the winter. We had just a few hours to shoot it before the sun was going to come down, going to get dark. So I just learned what I learned was to plan very carefully each frame I needed. So I think I storyboarded very carefully. So you sit, when you storyboard, I still do it to this day. You do very rough sketches, like basically stick figures like this. I do my stick figures, and it just forces me to think visually. How can I tell this story visually, and what shots do I really need for this? Of course, there's first a text, but then I transfer it into these visuals and these stick figures, and I might not use exactly what I've drawn, but it just makes me think about every position I need to put the camera, every place I need to put the camera, and how much time I need for each shot. So that's probably what I learned, especially on this one.
So let's switch the conversation a little bit, because you talked about how you created opportunity for yourself and got yourself in the door. Now I'd like to kind of talk a little bit about your process. So I'm going to resume share. I want to show another commercial. It's more recent, and then I get some questions about this.
Dave saved money on his car insurance at Money Supermarket, and now he feels epic. Don't you wish your girlfriend was hot like me? Don't you wish your girlfriend was a freak like me? Don't you wish your girlfriend was raw like me? Don't you wish your girlfriend was fun like me? Like me, don't you wish your girlfriend was a freak like me, don't you? Hey, darling, you're so Money Supermarket.
So you had to pitch this to people that want to, create an online market, right? And how do you storyboard that? How do you get that vision across and get someone to say, oh yeah, here's a bunch of money and we're going to put our brand on a guy in hot pants dancing in heels, right? Tell us like some about that process and where that came from and
Well, there's an agency who comes up with the idea, and so the idea was, how can we do something around this big butt? We want to have a character who's walking down the street with this incredible confidence and a big butt. So my job is to set the location, set the person, give the film its tone, and how do we. Do we do a small butt? Do we do a big? Should it be hot pants? Should it be long pants? All those little things. And so in this one, I was working with a great creative team in London, and who are famous for doing very sort of more provocative ads or more thought-provoking ads. So they came up with the idea, and then we worked together on how we tell the story. So I normally they have like a few lines in text that I then blossom out to maybe 10 pages. The character is this type, and the butt should be this, and I think he should be in this environment, and we should have these people he's passing, and so you add all the textures and layers just to make it to make it into this scene that it is. And it's a really collaborative process. Sometimes you work more alone, and sometimes you're leaning into this whole agency creative group that you're working as a real team effort. So it really varies a little bit.
So tell us about some of the other, because there's a lot of jobs, right? So what are some of the other avenues and opportunities for a student who wants to go into the film commercial world? Like what are some of the other jobs of the people that, your key people that you're working with here?
It's the cinematographer. It's the production designer who designs the set. We have location managers who find all the places, and then of course the creatives at the agency. If you want to come up with the ideas, you could be a copywriter who's writing the text, or the art director who comes up with sort of the style and the form that it's going to be that the campaign is going to have. So there's a tons of different avenues. I mean, I think I have the best job because I get to work with all these amazing, talented people, and in the end of the day, I get to decide how I want to do it. I like to be in charge.
Yeah,
so if you'd like to be.
But the nice thing is that from a student point of view, looking up, there are a lot of different avenues to get to where you are, right? And to work in the business. And I think that a lot of times, at least I know when I was starting out in theater, I wanted to be the director, and I remember like, oh, I'm joining a circus here. I mean, the regional theater world. And then I realized there are all these different jobs and all these different paths, whether it was props, director, or the marketing or anything else. And so the first thing is that I just think there are a lot of different paths that sometimes we have to take a step back and look at, and not get, as you said earlier, get so obsessed on the end game. I want to be the director. Yeah, that can come, but there are a lot of other great jobs along the way, and that may be good enough, right?
Absolutely. And I want to add to that, even if a lot of times I'm calling the shots, I do always have a boss. There's always somebody at the top that I have to present to. So it's not like I'm working totally independent either. But I think you work with so many. I work with so many great people, and everybody has awesome ideas. So I feel like I in my process, I really love that we're sharing ideas, and the best idea comes into the final decision. So, and it can come from an assistant, it can come from a production designer, it can come from the creative director, and it just you assemble great people, and you have these amazing opportunity to pick the cherries from the tree, and I think that's what I love about it. you know. And I think and what I love after spending a lot of time working is that you really have a group of people that you get to know closely, and you work really well together with.
Yeah.
So I have most of my partners I've worked with since. I still work with the cinematographer that shot my Volvo commercial. Me and him still work together.
So you all kind of came up together.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And, you know, obviously, you know, because something, you know, if you are an entrepreneur and you get that money to start that business, whether it's a 3-month gig on a commercial or, you know, some major website or, you know, medical device or whatever, building your team is critical, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, for sure. No, it totally is. And we have a question from Joel. Is it that how you say your name, Joel?
What's your question?
So the question is, why did you choose to work under a company instead of working freelance? I'm actually working freelance. I do not work for a company. So, but I have like, it's more like it's like an agency. So I work for a bunch of different brands or for a bunch of different agencies. Whoever comes to me with an assignment. So I do work freelance.
Right. So your only is your last job in a certain way.
Yeah. I mean, in my position, it depends on what you do, I guess. But I think for a director, it's very important to, and especially if the creativity is very important for you, I think it's important that that you're not locked into just one client or one place. I think it's important that you can get presented with multiple ideas, and you can sort of be a little bit careful with you should be a little bit careful with not doing every job. You should pick the one that you really love and that you feel like you can do something great with.
Yeah, but what's interesting is I mean, you are at the top of your game. You know, God knows how many awards you've won. You know, your commercials. You've had 2 commercials in the Super Bowl at once, right? You don't get much higher in your world than you are, and that's awesome. But at the same time, you're just another freelancer, right? When you know our parents went out and started work, they were probably likely to be at that same firm for their entire lives, you know, with a pension and a gold watch and all of that, right? And that's different for our generation. And, you know, for the young entrepreneurs who are here, it's going to be completely different too. I mean, work is evolving. And, you know, it's in some ways what you're doing is a great role model for how you take control of your own career, right? I mean, you started at Sunny London too. That's your company, right?
Yes. Yeah, well, I think it's just, I guess it's, I mean, for certain people, I think the security gives them more also sense of security, you know, to be working at one place, and that gives them more freedom to think freely. You know, I feel everybody has to choose their path and what really fits them. And I realized quite early on that for me, freedom and not being tied into one place was very important for me. And
but I think the part of the message is that security is harder and harder to find nowadays, right? You would have been an outlier a few generations ago, and now the way you work is much more akin to the way most people have to work now. I mean, ask a Uber driver, right? They're freelance too, right? You know, on a certain level, they're the same setup as you. I mean, obviously very different, but
right.
So many years ago, I worked for a Broadway producer, and I asked her, you know, what does she do? And she said it perfectly. She said, my job is to come up with the vision and share it in active terms in a way that everyone can understand it, from the director to the costume designer to the actors, all the way down to the usher. And if I do that, it's going to be a success, right? And when I see see your commercials, that vision is so clear. So does that apply? Do you apply that same principle as well? Are you looking how to?
No, I think, well, sometimes, but sometimes I think the process also is extremely, creatively chaotic. You love the idea, but it's very hard to get all the pieces to fit together. So it's a very swirly road to get there. And I have definitely times when my partners are scratching their heads and wondering what the hell does he want, and me as a director, I have to, sometimes I say I'm not really sure, but I think it's this. Other times I'm pretending to know, and that's a lot of times that just backfires. When I try to pretend that I know and I don't, it just turns into more chaos, because right. I have to backtrack of things I've said. So I think for me, I think the best, and it still happens. I think it's not early career or later career. It's still, I still find that sometimes it's I can be very precise and very I know exactly what we need, and other times it just is like I'm doing it for the first time. So yeah. So of course you get a little bit more experience over the years, but I think it's I think in terms of visions, sometimes it's okay to have a bit of a snarky role, but I think you have to be humble about it. I think you have to sort of lead your group saying, I'm not really sure, but I feel like we're onto something good. I don't know what I want, but I think I'm leading to something good. And I think that gives more respect back from the group as well. I'm sure you guys, when you're doing your work assignments at college, I'm sure you, and in school earlier, I'm sure you experienced the same things. It's not very different to having worked quite long in the business as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just love your willingness to admit when there's a lot at stake. I don't know. This is what I think, but I'm not sure. I mean, that takes courage, right? It's a lot easier to bluff your way, and as you said, that seems to never work.
Well, maybe later you kind of go that it's you kind of realize that it's actually okay to admit that you're not, maybe it's easier sometimes to say to people that I'm not really sure, but I think I have and I think when you just say I could be wrong, but I think this, I think people have sort of more openness to follow you or adding to the process. Adding more value to the process, or honest value, and honest, authentic contribution to the process.
That's great to know. Okay, so shifting gears again, one of the things, a truism, I guess, is that everyone wants to be something else, right? That an actor wants to be, a reality star wants to be an actor, and an actor wants to be a director. Director wants to be a rock star or whatever. So here you are. You're kind of a few years ago. You're at the top of your game as a commercial director, and you're like, I want to direct a film. And The Necessary Death of Charlie Countryman, you directed, and what was that process like? Just here you are, you still got to keep working, right? But you're out there, you're pitching a film, and you get a celebrity who says, yeah, I'll do that. That must have been a great day when you first heard that news. And tell me a little bit about that, and what you gave up to be able to do that.
Well, it was always, when I started doing commercials, I thought it was going to be maybe 2, 3, 4 years max, and then I was going to do movies. I think movies was always on the top of the mountain for me to reach to. So for me, it was. So I was I was working towards on a multitude of different projects, but I must say now in hindsight, I can say that because I think I was, what was that? I was probably like 42 when I did my first movie, and 42, 43, and I thought I would be doing it when I was 27. That was my, but I realized that I had the best job in the world. I just had so much fun doing what I did. I was very creative. I felt very creative and very fulfilled with what I was doing. But for some reason, the holy grail is what, you want to go there, and you want to try it. So for me, it took a long time. So it took 13 years to eventually get that film that I really wanted to do off the ground. Wow. And it was a very different process. It was a very I think there's a lot of things I love about my film. It's not a perfect film in any way, and it didn't do great, but there's a lot of things I love it. Just like it's a very much me, and it's very much an authentic film. I was trying to make something disruptive. I didn't want to make a genre film. I didn't want to make a film that was a clear horror, a clear thriller, or a romantic comedy. I wanted to do something that was very special and a unique project. And maybe I was too focused on that. Maybe I was too focused on actually finding a script that had fantasy, romance, action, and I always kept thinking, well, if that doesn't work in the film, this thing could work. Right. And so I must say there was probably I thought I had a very clear vision, but I probably didn't in the end. It was a few different visions in the film that I was trying, and that was the challenge with the script, I guess, was that it was a lot of different components, a lot of different genres within the film. And how can I make this come together into one filmic experience that all makes sense? And parts of it works, parts of it doesn't. And on top of that, there's a ton of different new challenges, such as actors and financiers and stuff like that. But
let's
in the end of the day,
talk about some of those challenges, right? Because I remember at the time this was hard for you, right? Well, on one level, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's like if you do this film and it's not a big, huge blockbuster Hollywood with huge budget, right? You're taking a pay cut, right? You couldn't go and do your commercials that pay your bills, right? And so you had to stop what you were doing to take this chance to do what you've always wanted to do. And I love and applaud the fact that you were like you wanted to disrupt with that. You didn't want to play it safe. Like I think that's incredibly laudable. But what was but now you're at the hands of other people, right? You worked with Shia LaBeouf. I'm not sure if I pronounced his name right, but what was that like? Was that like a lot of people's like, if I just get the celebrity, I'm gold, right? I got the name that brings in the money, and now everything's gonna be easy. Is that what you found? When you're taking this big chance financially, career.
Yeah, I mean, I thought, for me, it wasn't. For me, again, it wasn't about the money at all. I think the film took probably 4 to 5 years to make. Not I could do commercials in between, and that would pay the bills. But it was probably, I want to say, it was probably a solid 2 years, and with close to no pay. We get paid, of course, but when you really drag it out over that time, it's close to no. So you don't really do it for the money. I did it purely for the passion and for my lust of doing this particular film.
Yeah, but I mean, I've started many businesses, and you think it's going to be 6 months, right? And you're going to be golden, and lots of money's going to come in, and then it's a year or two, and the money's going down and you're getting scared. I mean, did you deal with that process? Because, you know, every entrepreneur, you know, just about has to come deal with that.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But I think that's the, I mean, I don't know, Andrew, what do you think? I mean, sometimes I'm not saying that it's wrong to think only about the money, but for me, that's not the, I mean, for some people are great with money and should have, you know, should focus on that, but
Right.
I'm not, so I can't focus on just making money. It has to come from, for me, my drive comes from creating an experience.
No, I would argue
experience.
that's true for, I don't care what business you're starting, that's absolutely true. But at the same time, there's certain practicals, right? You know, you got bills to pay, right? And there's a reason that some of the biggest names that we think of as entrepreneurs, they came from money. They could afford the years to get where they are, right? You know, Elon Musk came a family-owned diamond mines, I think, right? You know, he had money to be able to, you know, do what he did, so he didn't have to worry about it, right? So there's always that push and the pull, right? So no, I mean, that's why I find what you were doing so admirable, right? But there's a certain pressure, and I think any entrepreneur can identify with that.
Right.
And then I remember you had, especially in post-production, or maybe it was during production, frustration with the producers, the money people, right? And they kind of wanted to go in a different direction and so on. What was some of that process like? Because again, you know, venture capitalists can, you know, everyone thinks they're going to be your friend, but you know, after you take that money, they own you, right?
Right. Well, it was, you know, I think they wanted to push the film much more towards a pure thriller, and for me, the charm was to, you know, all these different genres mixed into one. So we tried to maintain that vision, but it was hard, you know. It was there was somebody who wanted to buy the movie and wanted to distribute the film, and they wanted a little bit more of the sort of thriller aspect. So we had to shift it more towards the thriller part of it, which it was a bit of a painful process, pulling teeth, but we did it, and it was in the end of the day, it was such a incredible, valuable experience to have, and I don't regret it for a second. You know, it's an experience that will always stay with me, and I hopefully will do a movie soon again, or in a few years. But it also, you know what, it also brought me peace in terms of, you know, appreciate what you have and do that as good as you can, and then the other things that you can work towards other goals too, but don't force it. Let it come let it come when it's time, and let it come when it's the right project.
Yeah. So don't do it don't pursue your dream.
Don't do it for the wrong reasons. Whatever your reason is, just do it for your authentically innermost, most precious, important reason.
Have you ever said no to a project?
To what?
Have you ever said no to a project? Like, you know what, you know, I'm not that, I can't do that, even though it might have been really enticing.
Yeah, I did. I said no to a project very late into it. I was going to do that right after Charlie Countryman. I was going to do the Olympus Has Fallen with Jared Butler, and so I was in London. We were going to film, and it was just, I don't know, it was a bunch of different things. You know, it was right at the height of these of terror attacks that started to feel, ISIS started to feel like it was coming in all around the world, and I felt like I started to feel like the whole project felt a little smelly. It just felt like we were sort of going into an area of terrorism that didn't feel like it had any. It only had Hollywood action, you know, monetized value, and it didn't feel right. So before we started shooting, I felt like I had to pull out of it. I didn't want to spend another year away from my family, because that's the other thing for me. You know, we all have our what's valuable in our lives, and for me, my family is my everything. Yeah. And work has to has to fit in around my family. So for me to go away for a year and be away from my family, it has to be worth it.
Right.
No money in the world will give that time back to me.
Yeah, but that's, I think, incredibly powerful. I mean, you started by saying, when I was a kid, I just wanted to be a film director. And you did it. You made Charlie Countryman, and Charlie Countryman led you to that's a big film, a big opportunity. And then you said no. And it sounds like for the right reasons, but if there's a lesson in this interview, I mean, I think that's huge.
Yeah.
It must have been difficult to say no. I mean, I can tell you, I got involved in a business and spent 2 painful years of my life when I should have said no, right?
Yeah.
And
but don't you think also, even in your experience there, don't you think that you also take away some super important lessons? It's never a waste of time.
No, I learned to say no.
It might be,
right?
it might be painful, but it might be painful during the time, but you always learn something that you bring with you afterwards. And you are gonna make mistakes, and you have to make mistakes. It's important to make mistakes
and to admit them and learn from them, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you make mistakes again. And so here you are, this incredible director, and you made mistakes, and you said no to some big things, and if you guys take away anything from that, I don't care if you want to be a filmmaker or an entrepreneur. I mean, remember that, because that's huge. And that actually takes me to the next area I want to cover, which is, you mentioned your family, and you work hard. You spend a lot of time on the road, and but I'd love for you to talk about what you do every summer, right?
Every summer, I turn off the phone and we go to a little island outside Stockholm, which is called Sandhamn. So some summers I have to work a little bit, but most of the time we go away for a month and a half to 2 months, and spend time with friends and family, which is incredible, important time to recharge and be together. Yeah.
And find balance in work life. I mean, that.
Yeah, exactly.
We get so focused on getting ahead, getting to that next step in the stone that and when I met you and saw you guys did that, I was like, oh wow, yeah, that, you know what, I personally learned a lesson from that, and I was also
okay
and then I was fortunate to see this magical place where you go every summer, right? And so the point is not to find your magical place, but to make some place for you magical as you chart your career, because otherwise, you're going to burn out and make terrible commercials or terrible businesses. Or
I mean, I know you also have your secret place, sacred place is your family as well. And I feel like there's it's such a luxury to have that, and to be able to know that you could live with everything else. You could live without everything else, and you have this, and to be able to step away, because both you and my work becomes very intense, and we get very wrapped up in it, very passionate about it, and we sometimes we don't see the world outside of it. But to go into your sacred place, it's very good to see your other stuff from a distance and get perspective. So it's not, if there's anything I would love to recommend, is to try and find your safe, whatever that is, whether it's your animals, whether it's a hobby or something else, and be able to see your profession from a distance, as well sometimes.
So I encourage you
be able to check out sometimes. I think it's great.
Yeah, it's essential. And I encourage you all, you said where you expected to be in 30 years. Add, what's your version of Frederick's Island, right, in 30 years. It may change, but spend some time thinking about that, because you can't, I think, be a successful entrepreneur unless you're thinking about that stuff too. Or you can't be a successful entrepreneur with a successful life, right? And you clearly have found a balance in a career that takes you all over the freaking world.
Right. We have a question from Mary May here, who asked what the film is about, and back to your point about, I think straight out of school for me, one of my most important things was actually that year around the world trip that I did, where I met different cultures, was living in hostels, lived in train stations, and were meeting tons of different people and getting some people I'm still in touch with today. But to break away, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do when I did that trip, but my film is actually a bit about that, of this Shia's character, Charlie. He loses his mom to cancer in the beginning of the movie, and he decides to go on a trip around the world to Bucharest, to Romania, and it's a movie about grief and finding life and different culture, and he ends up in a love triangle drama, which becomes quite violent. But it mirrored that time of my life, and that's probably why I was very passionately attached to that story. I felt very attached to it for that reason.
Yeah, and it's a great story. I encourage you to watch it, and if you want to make film, study it, right? And quite honestly, if you want to be a filmmaker, someone told me this a long time ago, find a movie that you love but you don't mind destroying for yourself, and watch it over and over and over again, and analyze how it was put together. Watch it just for the costumes, watch it just for the props, turn the sound on, and strip it away of the emotional impact that it's designed to have. It's a great learning process. We're a little over time. Mike, can I keep going, or do we need to switch? I don't know the limitations here. And maybe you guys want to tell me what you want, right? Do you want more of this, or do you want to get to the activation and the fun stuff that we also really want to do?
Yeah, I think since we have a few students in here, we were planning to take a short little break, but if you guys want to continue this conversation leading into the activation, we have some flexibility in this time. So we want to be able to make this exciting and create the most value for you. The next part of this was going to be an activation where everyone would have a chance to create their own commercial and be able to pitch. So we want to make this a fun opportunity where you'll be able to engage with each other. So if we want to just take maybe a short 5-minute break and then be able to come back together, please, Andrew.
But I want to give you, I have a bunch of questions for Frederick. I can keep going for a couple hours, right? Do you guys have any more questions for Frederick? If you do, unmute yourself and hit him hard, make him cry. I promise him I'd make him cry. Fortunately.
But we could also just preamble before we do the break, Mike. I'm wondering if we should do a little, just a little presentation of what's to come after the break, because we would love to discuss and see if you guys could come up with some disruptive ideas for a campaign or for an activation of sorts. And we have we're in touch with I'm in touch with an agency in New York called BBH, and we've been talking about different ways of this form of activation. So there is a social message, and there is an internet client that we want to
so we'll get that to you in a second, but Mary Ma very politely has her hand up. So Mary,
Yeah.
Hit him hard.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Bond. So I wonder, what's the plan for next film? You mentioned you have a plan for next film, and then you want to produce in 4 to 5 years. I'm very curious about it.
Yeah, I have a couple of films that I'm working on right now, scripts that we're working on, and one is it's a true story about a Marine soldier that lost his life in Afghanistan, and it's about his journey into the Marines, and he was part of a dog sniffing LEDs platoon. So they were sniffing for bombs, and it's his life story. It's a beautiful story. It's a sad but beautiful story about a guy in your guys' age who went to try and follow his dream, and unfortunately lost his life, but won a lot of friends and a lot of experience on the way. And he really put his life on the line for this experience. The other one is about a soccer player in England, a famous soccer player named Jamie Vardy, who was part of winning Champions League was it 4 or 5 years ago. So it's another true life story, which I'm very passionate about. And we are working on the scripts, and it's long processes. So who knows when they will ever happen, if they will ever happen. But
do you have any writers for the script, or you just write your script on your own?
No, I'm working with writers.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I'm working with writers.
I also wonder what's your name come from, because your name reminds me of James Bond, which is also a fantastic franchise in Britain, right?
Yes, exactly. It comes from England, my family name, but we're England via Sweden. We're from. I grew up in Stockholm, in Sweden. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Mary, I think remember that filmmaking is a full contact sport, right? It's not like you create everything and you dictate everything that happens. You have to collaborate with other people. That's what makes it so interesting, right? And I think why Frederik's so successful is that he's so good at collaborating with other people. Yoel, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, thank you so much. I guess I'm just curious, you've talked a little bit about what films you've created so far, or the film that you've created. I guess, could you talk a little bit about the process, of how you take a film from its idea through its creation?
Are you talking about commercials or feature film?
Feature films.
Feature film. A lot of reading, tons of reading, too much reading. So there's I don't know how many, I almost want to say hundreds of scripts I read before I really wanted to do this one Charlie Countryman script. Of course, you could always write your own story. I'm not a writer, even if I'm trying to write, and I would love in the future to maybe write my own movie, but I've never been patient enough, I guess, to sit down and make my own story. I hope I will one day, but there's so many fantastic writers, and I think I should, at least for now, I'm focusing on directing and working together with brilliant writers. And the process is you find the script and you meet the writer, and you see if your minds meet, and what if we do this with the character, or is this what you want with the character? You sort of, it's a ping pong match, not a match at all. It's what's a better metaphor? Yeah, you're basically bouncing off each other, seeing how your minds meet, and it's more of a dance. Make sure that it's a dance and it's not a competition, So I think that when you see that, when you get excited from those conversations that you have about the character and the story, you realize that you're on the right path to something that your minds are meeting on. So it's never, you could sometimes think that a director goes in with, okay, I know exactly, I want, as we talked about earlier, this is my vision, I do it this way. But it's very much talking to all your partners and producers and the actor you meet, and see how you can, if there's energy coming in your conversations, and if it's, as opposed to butt heads, then it's not good. And you know this, so you can probably talk more to this, Andrew.
No, absolutely. I just think that, you know, collaboration is essential. So my experience was in regional theater and off-Broadway and Broadway theater, where it's all about, you know, like I would work with actors, and after about 3 weeks, they go, "Oh, I got an idea." And I'd be like, "Oh, thank God, I've been trying to get you to have that idea for 3 weeks now," right? Because it's, you know, then they own it, right? And when they own it, it becomes completely different. And I'm not an actor. I couldn't act to save my life, right? But, you know, so I couldn't say, "Oh, here, do it this way." But if I did, they would just mimic, and that wouldn't be real, right? And I think Frederick, I mean, obviously that's what you're so good at is, you know, let's try this. You know, what do you think? And getting people excited about ideas, right? So, you know, that's not easy. That's hard, and it's risk taking. You know, I describe myself as an economic bungee jumper because it's like you're taking a huge risk, you know, with your literal economics, you know, as you're taking huge risk with creating a commercial. You know, you got a guy dancing on the street or whatever, you know, in hot pants. And that, you know, you could spend, you know, 3 weeks shooting that and then put it together and go, "What the hell do we have?" Right? You're taking a chance. And if you're lucky, most of the time those chances pay off. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes you pull, you know, scrape it together. So I think, because we're getting over time and I don't want to waste all of your time, but I'd really like to get to the activation, the creating of a commercial, which we'll take a little break. But what Frederick has done, as you mentioned earlier, is talk to a high-level creative director and said, "What are you looking for now?" Right? So we want to give you something that's not something that, you know, was a problem a year ago or 10 years ago, but this is today's problem right now, and see what you guys can come up with it and have some fun with that. So let's take a little break. I'm going to play one of Frederick's longer form commercials, you know, with another soccer star, and you know, you can watch that, you know, catch your breath, bathroom, whatever, and then we'll come back in about 8 minutes or so. Let me see if I can hit play. So let me know, Mike, give me a thumbs up if this.
Say that again.
He wants to play you in I, Beckham the movie.
He wants to play me? You serious?
Yeah, and he wants to stay with you for a couple of days to, you know, kind of get into the role, get into the character. Research is what they're calling it.
Rick, I'm really uncomfortable with this. How is this even possible? You can't do this to me again. When does he arrive?
Oh my goodness. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Oh man.
How are you?
Oh God. Thank you, man. First of all, look at this.
I mean, it's unbelievable.
Not even planned, man.
No, not at all.
I've never done this for a while. There's method acting, and then there's what I plan on doing. Because here's the thing, nobody is going to expect it. And if I pull this off, this is the one that people will talk about for ages.
People are going to talk about this for
when
sure.
Kevin Hart became David Beckham.
I'm excited. I'm just going to continue to shoot.
Yeah, I don't want to slow you up.
You're good there.
Okay, man.
Amazing.
Thank you so much, David.
Rick, we need to talk like a week in my house. Seriously?
I'm watching you. I'm not. David. Hey, David. Hey.
That's great. That's great. You got it.
What are you doing here?
Come on. I'm sorry. Man, you're not mad at me, are you?
Never.
You're out of toilet paper in the bathroom. Pretty bad.
Good morning. How are you?
How much tea do you drink?
I'm English.
I drink a lot of tea.
English.
Right. David, would you mind if we brought Kevin in for a few? I think it could be fun, right?
I mean, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't mind?
I mean,
Fine.
5 straight into the lens. Yeah.
No smiling.
No smiling.
Kev, oh my. It's 4 a.m.
What are you doing in my bed, Kev?
Huh? What?
What are you doing in my bed?
It's your bed? I thought that was for the bathroom. I thought it was, I must have wandered off. You wandered. There's the bathroom.
How long are you staying?
Well, I mean, until we get it right.
Till we get what right?
Till we get what right? This is great talk time, by the way, David. I feel like I'm getting to know you.
So you look fit. What do you do?
Hot yoga, Pilates. Show me the Beckham kick.
Oh.
What about you? What do you do?
A little bit of cardio. I lift a little bit.
Ask me, what do I do?
You look fit. What do you do?
A little bit of cardio. I lift a little bit. After working out, what's the one thing you have to do?
Ice bath.
Oh! Not right now, David. Stay fit. I'll take some mint tea with a little bit of honey. Hello, I'm David Beckham.
Okay, what are you doing in my bathroom? Is that my toothbrush? Come on.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I just need this more. So sorry. Sorry. Hey, Mom, how are you? Staging, your son.
Kevin, put David on the phone.
I'm so sorry. Don't tell David nothing crazy. Manchester.
Tim, I'll be back later.
All right, I'll see you later.
Yeah, we've had a couple of incidents, but, you know, he's a great guy. Kev, what did you do when I went out for a walk, Kevin?
What did who do? What did I do?
Uh-huh.
Do nothing.
Nothing.
No.
Nothing at all.
Wait. I use some of your gel.
Some of my gel.
Yeah, that's it.
Help! 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 Oh!
I can't feel my legs. I don't know where to start, man. Hey, did I overstep my boundaries anyway?
No, never.
No? Maybe a little bit. I get this part I owe it to you. I get emotional, you know?
I know.
Hey. Oh. It didn't bend.
See you, Kevin.
Yeah, see you, David. I'm sorry, man. I was trying to put it in the trash can.
Have you seen the cover of the Hollywood Reporter?
I'm just reading it now. It's unbelievable.
They want to make a sequel. They want to make a musical.
A musical. Can he sing?
All right, this was fantastic. So now we're getting into the activation part and allowing the students to be able to contribute. I know some may have stepped away, and we did have a couple that had to go off to classes and unable to finish out the activation with us. we had originally planned to do some breakout rooms and wanted to check if we might want to do more conversation and allow the students to be able to build into a little bit of a discussion in a main room rather than doing a breakout. Would that be okay with you, Frederick and Andrew?
Yeah, absolutely. We were actually talking about that separately. And because we also have gone over time. So who here is interested in doing this? Aaron, nice to see you again. Mary, are you still there? Are you back? She might be waiting on a break. But yeah, so I would say with you guys, let's, there are two possibilities. When Mary's back, we'll kind of lay them out. And then let's just do this as an open kind of discussion. And, you guys will take the lead. How does that sound, Aaron? You're on mute, Aaron.
Yeah, that works.
Okay, great. Yeah, because I think we can have a lot of fun here. And you might as well leave it off mute, Aaron, because we're gonna. This is now your part of the conversation. And Sydney, I don't know if you want to jump in this as well, but please do. Sure. I think we can have some real fun here. And
yeah, let's do it together.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm curious. There's two different paths here that I would love to try on you both, on the group. One is that we, as we all know, there's a huge, especially since this pandemic, there's a huge, and obviously before as well, but there's a huge issue with mobile addiction and how to get off our phones, right? How do we, I feel the constant draw into this machine, and our lives are building more and more, are revolving more and more on them, and we're dependent more and more on them. So it's very hard to get off them, both as a work tool, but also on a lot of the social sites. And I think that I know one of my close colleagues I've been working with over the last few months, who works at BBH, his name is Lucas, has been talking a lot about, trying to figure out and come up with a concept of helping, especially young adults who find it harder to look for help, So I know, for instance, that they have been pitching to Tinder an idea where they wanted to have certified therapists on the actual site. So it's a very easy access for them, for I guess, both young and adults to access help, and having a sort of authentication certificate on these therapists. But basically, so it's because what they found is that it takes a lot for young adults especially to seek help and to make that extra effort to find out who's good for them and who could help them out. So they pitched to Tinder that, what if we had therapists on hand on the actual site that we could. So this is not necessarily a campaign or an idea for a film, but it's a sort of activation idea. And I'm curious to see what you guys think about that.
Right. So
first and foremost,
if we go down this path, right? So there are two different possibilities. Yeah. The idea is that you guys would lay out a commercial to play wherever it may be, to get people to use this service, right? To make it comfortable, to make it feel like, oh, I could swipe right and talk to a therapist if I'm feeling down, overwhelmed, finals, or whatever it may be. So I think that's a great activation, right? So that's option number one. Now, option number two.
Yeah, so that's option number one. So option number two is is it's actually an actual pitch that is out now for real within the agency. They have Google as a client, and what they're trying to do is they're trying to come up with a concept where they're looking for ideas and concept which activates small businesses, which makes people actively choose a small business over all these tech giants, or the small companies also, for instance, but which obviously are cheaper and can be much more competitive on a monetary level, you know, and much easier access for anybody who spends all the time at home and can't go out, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, a big part of our society and our cities are built on community, and that we keep our small shops, from grocery stores to shoemakers to clothing stores, and that we don't, you know, only rely on online purchases. So yeah, that's the other avenue here. You know, how can we come up with an idea that would make people realize or prefer to have a personal and feel inspired to have a more personal small business experience, as opposed to an
especially coming out of the pandemic, right? And hopefully we're emerging soon, and all of these businesses have been hit hard, right?
Yeah.
What do they need? They need people to come back and say, look, I know you've been buying from Amazon and I don't blame you, but you know, give people a reason to want to connect to community, to feel something different than an online purchase, right? Online is here, it's only getting bigger, it's here to stay. There's a lot of great stuff, but what can we do to encourage people to support those businesses? And what's interesting about Google doing this is they, every day, and I spend a lot of time in my space working on this, they are building up Google My Business, and it's the replacement to Yelp. Yelp is all but dead and will probably disappear soon. And Google My Business is slowly, deliberately, in the way that only Google can do it, building. And what's amazing about it is they have the potential, and it's baked in, to make customer service a driving force, right? So if, for example, reviews, right? If you do a review on Google My Business now, and there are two equal coffee shops, dry cleaners, whatever, on different corners, right? And one has, 4.5 stars and 500 reviews, and people love it for the most part. And the other has, 16 reviews, and they're all by their, family, and everyone else hates it, right? Google will literally show the one with all the great reviews more than the other one. So the one that has bad service slowly disappears. They may not even know why, right? And the one with good service thrives. And I mean, I actually deal with this in parking garages, right? And how I get people to choose one parking garage over another. So I know this is important. I know this works, right? And so here we are in an opportunity where Google's, obviously they want to showcase that business, but more importantly, they're saying, we want to help businesses thrive, particularly the good ones, those with great reviews, those that want to do that. And they're putting the call out saying, help us do that, right? So
I see Mary May has a hand up there.
Yeah.
Is that,
so we'll shut up now, you two decide.
Yes, so you just mentioned like how to promote small business. An idea that come to my mind is we can make a short documentary of how the family runs the business, like how they start up, and then what motivates them to make the products, and how the products are different from other like large supermarkets. Like for example, if we have a small fruit stop instead of a Whole Foods market, and we can maybe advertise how like local or fresh the fruits compared to like Whole Foods, and how because it's a family run business, maybe they put more individual care for their product instead of like a chain, like a factory run business. So this reminds me of Speed Racer, where there are like two kinds of racing cars. One is produced by mass markets and large companies, but the Speed Racer won because his car was produced by a family-run business, and his father and all his members in his family hand-built the car that contribute to his success because of the family connection between him and his team, which is his family. So I wonder if we can make a short documentary about that to showcase and highlight the people behind the products instead of the factory or machines behind the products. So we can promote the idea that, oh, there's more warmth behind those family-run business instead of the cold machine-like business.
Yeah, I love that. That's an awesome idea. I love that. Yeah.
Aaron,
very nice.
What do you think? Do you want to work with Mary on that?
Yeah, no, I really like that idea. My family is actually owns a small business, so I can definitely attest to the fact that it goes beyond just kind of the business itself. It seeps into our home life, and it's just there's a lot of like work behind the scenes and a lot of like care that goes into everything that people don't see, and I think that would definitely be pretty moving. I also thought kind of as an idea on the same topic of like the life cycle of the money that's being purchased, because a lot of the times especially like for restaurants and like local businesses and stuff like that, a lot of their money that like comes in goes back into like other small businesses in the area, and it kind of makes this cycle of like community support, which I think is kind of unique and interesting to small businesses, local businesses. So maybe something with like highlighting like the life of a dollar or something like that as like a short commercial of like where it's going from like one business and then it like travels whatever to another business where it's spent, and kind of highlighting how powerful kind of like that like circulation is within a community. I think that would be
yeah.
It makes me think of Bootylicious, but with the dollar instead of the dancer, right? You know, how as that dollar travels, it activates different people in fun ways.
Right. And just for, if anybody watches this after it's been put on the site and this recording, this is something that lives on. So if anybody is watching this after this session, this is like a bit of a standing, it doesn't die with this recording, these and if you have any friends that are interested in this, you by all means, you can submit ideas or even produce a little spec film, or you can do, if you have ideas, submit them,
Yeah, so unfortunately, Yoel, I know, had to leave. She had a prearranged call, and I have a feeling she would be very excited about this too. So Yoel, if you come back and you look at this, and anyone else, and I'll speak for myself and actually Frederick, sorry, but we're happy to engage with you. This is so much more fun than doing our real work that I would much rather
yes.
do this. So
yeah,
Nancy.
Okay, just feeding off of Aaron's idea, and I'm not a student, but I can't keep my idea inside. The classic scene from It's a Wonderful Life, where there's a run on the bank, and Jimmy Stewart is like, no, you don't understand. Your money is in your house, and his money is in your house. But taking that idea and twisting it to, your money is going to help pay for her kids' shoes, and that money is going to help pay for it. So just showing, again, taking this concept of the dollar and where it goes, but doing a little play on It's a Wonderful Life and that genre, that style.
Yeah, I love that too.
That's great. Yeah, love that.
Okay,
would we do face replacements, or would we do actually Jimmy Stewart in the lead role?
Oh, right. Like do where they reanimate him. I don't know. Maybe get an actor that can fill in for that. But I think that's a really well-known film, and people would relate to it. And they,
of course,
that is like the symbolic film of like the little guy fighting the big guy, and keeping the community, keeping the money in the community. So that's why I keep in mind.
That's beautiful.
Okay, so
thank you.
Mary and Aaron, take yourselves off of mute. This is for you. Like, let's develop something here. Let's see if we can put together a pitch that maybe we can convince Frederick to take to his friend.
No convincing is needed. I wanted to ask you guys, what do you think of the previous idea about this social media addiction? What's your experience there?
I mean, yeah, I think it's something that just the problem itself like is very pervasive, especially among like college students and younger people as we kind of get sucked into it. I've definitely thought about this a lot more since the pandemic started, and I've actually come up, it wasn't like exactly related to that, but I've had a lot of ideas related to kind of like, I call it the mundane everyday, but like everything, you kind of just like get sucked into the same things every day, and it feels like social media is this really like big pushing factor in that. Like people have these rituals where in the morning they'll get on social media and check everything, and everything seems to just be like really tied to like acceptance and like wanting to like show that you're interesting and that you're doing things, and that pushes us to just like always be checking on this stuff and like comparing ourselves to people. And I think you mentioned it was like a Tinder thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I didn't have like a thought about that, but I think kind of an idea related to like social media addiction I've had for a long time, or just like kind of getting distracted, is like and you never really appreciate what's around you. You're always in this like really fast-paced environment. You're just like doing the same things over and over, every single day, trying to like push yourself to like get all these things done. And you never like take a second, put it down, and like really appreciate what's all around you and like the beauty of every day. And so actually I'd written down kind of a little short like film idea related to that, where like it starts out with like this like ritual of this person going through their like every day, like, and it's really like the frame is like focused in on like what they're looking at, and like they're seeing their phone, they're walking through WashU campus or whatever, and they're like not noticing all these other things that are going on. It's different in COVID, but like like an activities fair, like a band playing, and it's just like really like muted and focused in. And then I guess it would somehow get to where they put that down, and it like kind of like zooms out, and like they realize how much more there is to like their surroundings, and like that the mundane every day isn't actually that mundane if you like take the moment to like really appreciate and look around. So I know that's not exactly related to
No, this is perfect. This is exactly what I'm talking about. It doesn't have to be exactly that. That was more just to put a seed into thinking about the issue, the problem. But so what you just explained is exactly what we're looking for. In terms of because I think it's but I think it's something that adults and young are fighting with and trying to come to terms with. Do you think there's a responsibility that the actual sites themselves could be doing?
I think definitely. I mean, they have such a hold on people that if it isn't them, then they're not going to really listen to anybody else. I mean, there's a lot of like campaigns and initiatives going around, and I've seen them, but like again, it's just like so ingrained in everybody's, like, people, especially now, are looking for like this like schedule and like certainty, and like trying to create a schedule. I feel like it brings people security, and a lot of that is now relying on Instagram, Twitter, kind of some of these bigger platforms. So if they're not going to be the ones to kind of put in some of those, like put in some of that work of like trying to inform people and like change the mindset, then it's probably not going to change.
How do you, somebody like Snapchat, are you guys on Snapchat? Yeah? No?
50-50.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Why are you on Snapchat, Aaron?
I mean, I downloaded it a long time ago, and it's just like it was a really big thing in high school to like communicate with people, and then it just became kind of part of the like social like status quo of like keeping your streaks with people, and like, oh, you're always talking to somebody. I guess it just became kind of ingrained in the social aspect of high school. So, and it's kind of carried from there.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, and all your friends are on it as well. So that's how you communicate?
Yeah, for the most part.
Do you use any other social media apps or Instagram or?
Yeah, I use Instagram and Twitter as well.
Is okay, but mostly Snapchat.
I would say mostly Twitter, honestly.
Oh, really? Okay. And why is that?
I don't know, because I follow people that I don't know, so I get a lot more information about like stuff I care about. I don't know. I've kind of broken away from the whole like sociable part of it, but for most people, I'd say it's still there.
Yeah, for me, I use Twitter to follow industrial news, like what movie they are making and what movie is going to be released in the theater.
So interesting.
On
so,
Twitter.
So you guys, despite what we say, our old people say about your generation, is you're less about kind of the social and more about getting information about what's happening out there in the world. Would you say that's correct, Mary, Aaron?
I think both. Socializing is also a big part of why we use social media, because during the pandemic we use Facebook or Snapchat. I don't use Snapchat, but we use text messages or Twitter to connect to old friends. Sometimes we just don't know what they are doing, but if we have the connection online, we can reach out to them.
Yeah.
And text message doesn't realize that.
And Mary, may I ask you how come you are not on Snapchat, or why haven't you? Why do you think you are not on that? Is that unusual? Are your friends on Snap or not?
Yes, but I just prefer not to use it. I feel like it's inconvenient for me. I feel the I don't know. I don't know how to use it in some ways, and I find it distracting.
Okay. Okay. Great.
Yeah, because when having too many social media, I find that I cannot concentrate on my studies. And then if I can text them or just use limited like platforms to connect to them, I don't have to use so many different other social networking apps to.
Right. So it's either WashU or Snap is kind of what you're saying.
Yeah, WashU, Snap.
Never mind. Like stay and WashU and get your work done, or play with Snapchat and not get your work done. And anyway.
So Mary, you're pretty disciplined with your time, are you? Are you very?
I'm a reductionist. I'm trying to reduce all the stressors I may experience, and I have suffered from comparing myself to others, especially when you realize that going to social media, you see so many talented people, and then you feel like I tend to constantly compare myself to others. What if I can be like this? What if I could be a dancer or play the piano well or play guitar? And if I see people or friends doing that, I feel so jealous that I couldn't really be concentrated on who I am and what I'm good at. So I try to switch off other distracting voices and just try to be appreciative of my current life without worrying about other spheres I may not go into.
Okay, great. So would you say, is it fair to say that you don't feel like you have a social media addiction or problem?
Slightly. I use WeChat. I'm from Shanghai, China, so I use another like app for Chinese students. Right. But I'm not sure. I'm slightly addicted to it because sometimes there's so many news feed on that app as well. But not too addicted.
Do you guys, Aaron and Mary, do you have friends? Do you feel like you have friends that stays completely off it, that are very good at disciplining themselves off it, or is it everybody's on it?
I honestly think everybody that I talk to here is pretty addicted, me included. It's like, I don't know, it's this distraction and this really fast-paced content that comes at you, such a distraction from the really boring work you have to do all the time if you're not interested in it. I should say. But yeah, I honestly think that everybody that I talk to here, and I'm sure there are some people that are good at getting away, but yeah.
So would you say then that maybe instead of trying to get people off it, it's more monitoring how managing your time on it? Is that more the
Yes, how to balance it, like how to balance the use of it. They are definitely useful. You cannot really get rid of it. Otherwise, how can you get news and information? And how do
right?
you, some people just use Twitter to learn, and then that's a great resource too.
Yeah,
It just depends on how many times you look up your phone. And that's
yeah,
why the Apple has the usage limit,
yeah,
right? Like
Right.
after 30 minutes, you just cannot open the app and it doesn't receive any notifications anymore. So,
right.
but sometimes it's not useful. I keep clicking, oh, I stop this usage, and then I can still open the app. So
Yeah.
So what is the things that what do you think, guys? What do you think that the social media platforms themselves could, what could Snapchat do, for instance, Aaron? To would it create any value? Would it create more value and more love for the site itself? You think if they were to have a um, some sort of monitoring or some sort of limit as much you, or something, you know, could they create something that was more giving you more less time on it? Or do you think that they're would that be of value, do you think? Would you love them more, or do you think that they should just it's a big company, they just want more and more of your time, and that's what, you know, they're sucking you in more and more? But wouldn't it also be interesting if they were monitoring you, helping you, right? What do you think? Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really like sticky area there because, on one hand, like you said, they're a business and their profit comes from, ads coming through their like stories and you using the app. But at the same time, I think that especially their like big market is sort of the younger generation, at least on Snapchat. And from what I've heard, I don't have like the greatest like perspective on everybody. But like from the most part, it is a problem, and people wish they were able to kind of like set this stuff down. But it's always like it's hard. Like there's no like support for it really, as we've kind of been talking about. So, I definitely think that if there was kind of some initiative through these social apps like Snapchat, it would definitely be seen in a positive light by consumers, people that actually use the app. So I definitely think it would be a positive in terms of like how happy, people are seeing it customer wise.
So then if they, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Mary, do you agree with that assessment from your point of view? Mary?
oh,
Do you
oh, what's the thing? Something someone asked me?
do you agree with Aaron that, if you guys were to create this commercial and we could convince them to sell it and play it, do you think people would look at it as a favorable thing that, the social media giants are encouraging to put it down every now and then?
Yeah, I think so. But also, it can serve as an advertisement for social media because they are spreading positive values, and people think, oh, positive values, then that means their products are good, and maybe we can try it.
Nice. Okay. So do
Yeah.
you guys want to like go down the route of kind of like putting together the pitch to, Frederick, as it were, of or coming to get up with the pitch for what to create? Because I mean, you have some great ideas. I mean, I was kind of taking some notes, and I heard some great things about, you're kind of walking through WashU campus with, your blinders on and all this kind of cool stuff happening around you and not seeing it, and something triggers that. There was also the life cycle of the dollar, which I also was really kind of cool and similar in certain ways, actually, for both of these different directions. The Wonderful Life, kind of, whether it's a redo or a ripoff or just an inspiration point, was also another great direction. What interests you guys? I mean, because you were also talking about like your family businesses and your kind of your approaches. So you have Frederick. What direction you want to take them?
Oh, so one idea just coming to my mind is, like for the option one about social media, if I want to make a short film advertising for people to have more off time to unplug themselves, I will open my film with someone who doesn't use a phone but walks onto campus trying to find friends, but they are all on their phone, and sometimes he calls on people's name, but they are listening to music and they totally ignore them, and he feels very frustrated about it. And then we can begin the film by talking about how maybe make a short documentary about how social media dominates us and how we should try to dominate social media by being active users instead of being passive consumers who are consumed by all this kind of information, because it's an information bomb and we just overly consumed by those information.
Yeah.
Like what you mentioned there, Mary, and being the creators. And, there's so many people that will have a beautiful sunset or something that they are so worried about capturing that they're not looking at it other than through their screen. Like if your life is lived through that screen all the time, you are a passive observer and you are always taking in information. That's a great point, Mary.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, beautiful. That's a beautiful idea. And as I said, we're all victims of it. I think we just get more and more used to it. It's just how we can every now and then just look up more and see what's around us, right?
Yeah, I also have a horror film idea about how a phone has a conscious now. All the social media has conscious, and they are just using humans to getting more and more time investment in them so that they can get more and more conscious and more hyper intelligent, and then they can dominate human beings like one day. And then the phones are basically trying to it's a little bit crazy. So I imagine the phones one day will grow on the people's minds and they just dominate the faces. So there are no five senses anymore, just a giant phone on my face. And then all the human beings, or nearly all of the human beings who are addicted to phones, one day would wake up finding a phone on their face and they cannot see anything through their real eyes, but through the phone's eyes, the camera eye. And that's one idea I have, but it sounds a little bit gross and crazy. So
that's crazy. I love that.
I love it. I love it. It's great.
Let's make that. I mean, that's
that.
This idea just makes me feel like, oh, I want to puke.
No, make that. I agree with Andrew. Go and make something like that.
Yeah, I mean, because that makes me think of that famous Apple commercial from 1984, or about 1984, where the person throws, that kind of feeling. And you create this world, and then it's all about someone breaking out of that world, right? And then
it reminds me of Matrix. When people are all
or a Matrix kind of thing. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Where it's one person's oh, right. There's a lot of value there.
Yeah, the moment when he realized that, oh, they are living in a virtual world instead of in the real world, it really shocked me.
Right.
Yeah, that's great. And what film would you make, Aaron?
These ones?
Yeah.
Or something else that's kind of come to your mind from this conversation.
I don't know. I really like. I mean, I've been thinking about kind of making that social media kind of the difference between what you see versus reality, what's all around you. I've had that idea for a while, just not even related to this. So I think that would be really, and I've wanted to make it. So I think I would like to kind of focus on something like that, kind of refining that idea a little bit.
Mm.
Yeah. So what does that look like? I mean, I can picture kind of a student leaving the dorm room, with the phone, grabbing their stuff or whatever with the phone, walking through the South 40 with the phone, right? And right through, past through Mallinckrodt and past the Skandalaris Center and so on with the phone, and all these things are happening around them.
Yeah.
Right. And this person is seeing these things on the phone, in an enhanced version, right? Someone's playing hacky sack and you see the super cool version of that on the phone.
Yeah.
Better than it is. Yeah. I don't know. Is that interesting to you?
Yeah. So that was kind of what I was thinking, and it's like it focuses in on like kind of like bringing like a sound element to it. Kind of it focuses in on like the sounds and like kind of like of what you're like paying attention to is like the sounds of the phone, whether you're like texting or like yeah, like recording, and just kind of like the audio part of that is like at the beginning it really focuses in on, but then it also has still everything in the background that's happening, but really muffled, and just kind of like as like kind of like the secondary part where like second time around you're watching it, you'll realize it, but kind of that initial watch you don't realize it, and then kind of completely switching that then, and then once they're like not looking at their phone and they're like going through their day normally, I don't know normally is the right word, but differently, and they all the audio and all of the like vividness of like the real world and like what's around them kind of like seeps into the both like visual and audio kind of parts of the film. So
yeah.
Have you also done a bit of short films, Aaron?
I've done a little bit. I've been really interested in it for a couple of years, but I just haven't like really like gone into learning enough about it. I did over the summer. I did some like ads for my dad and then another small business in my hometown. So I got into some more film stuff that way, but I'm really looking forward to trying to pursue some of this in the future.
So what did you do? What kind of ads did you do for your dad?
So I made like a little campaign. He owns a Neapolitan pizzeria in my hometown, which is like not this normal pizza that people are used to. I don't know if you guys have had like wood-fired Neapolitan pizza, but it's really thin in the middle and got a really thick crust. It's very like specifically made. There's like a literal like pizza standard board in Italy that like defines what you can call like an authentic Neapolitan pizza. You have to use this super specific ingredients. It's really complicated, but people don't realize that, and they don't like understand what kind of like pizza this is. So I made like kind of like going through like the process of making it. So it like shows us like making the dough and like stretching it. It's kind of like, I don't know what the right word is, like a B-roll where it like kind of like transitions through like everything like really smoothly. So like the intro shot is like picking up the dough out of the pan, goes into the flour, and then it kind of like he picks it up, but then it like fades into like him throwing it and the pizza's already stretched and it lands on the table. And I don't know, it's pretty cool, but it like goes through like the process of making the Neapolitan pizza. And then I made an ad for like a washing, I don't know, like a delivery washing machine, like laundry business. And it was just kind of detailing how their process works, and they use that for like their Facebook banner and stuff like that. So
awesome, great. You're already done like quite a few things then.
Couple.
Yeah. Are you part of a media program at WashU as well then? Are you doing some media studies or film studies?
I hope to next semester. I wanted to get into it like in person because I feel like it'd be a lot better of an experience like in person. So hopefully next semester I'll be able to do some of that.
Yeah, I highly recommend Professor Burnett's Intro to Film. I became a film major after taking his classes. And also Professor Power's Making Movie, but it's no longer taught by Professor Power, but try Making Movies 1 and 2.
Yeah, I've heard those are really great classes. Those are on my registration thing for next semester. So
yeah. Oh, awesome. Well, I think your ideas are great, and if you want to do anything with them, we're here to review them. So feel free to submit whatever you feel like you're passionate about.
Yeah, where can we submit the ideas?
I think through the Skandalaris Center, right? We have some.
Please send it over. We'd be happy to share them out, and we want to be able to support you. That's the activation part of this. And Mary was always very active. It was always wonderful seeing you in the center when we were in person. We want to be able to help support you virtually as well. So anything that we can do to help you take that next step, please reach out. I know myself, I'll speak for Cyril as well. We're here to help with anything you need. If it's something here with starting your own venture, we want to be able to help you take that next step. That activation is where things really happen. A lot of people have great ideas, but without action, nothing will ever happen. So we want to see you take action on these great ideas, and would be happy to share them out with Andrew, with Frederick, and this has been really fun. This has been a fantastic opportunity to get to know the students better, to get to know Frederick, Andrew. I just am so thankful for you guys joining us and allowing us this opportunity today.
Well, yeah,
Thank you.
thank you, Frederick, in particular.
Thank you.
I hope you guys really found value in this, and anyone watching this later finds value in this. So thank you.
It's been great. Thank you, Cyril. Thanks, Sydney. Thanks, Mike. It's been an awesome experience, and thank you, Aaron and Mary. It's been fantastic to and very informative to hear about your lives there and what's going on inside your heads.
Yeah, I wonder if I
Very
want
excited.
to work with a director, could I work on your film, like to be a participant?
To be a participant, yeah. I mean, reach out to us, and we can. If I'm doing something, we have an open position. By all means, you can come by for sure.
Yeah, could I have your email address?
Yeah, for sure.
And Mary and Aaron, we're going to be able to have a little something for you as a little thank you gift as well. So reach out to me. I will be following up with you, and then I'll be able to share out Frederick's information so we can get all that to you. And It's been a really fun day, and I look forward to seeing what happens next. So think of this just as the first step, and we want to be able to share something.
Starter, right?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much, guys.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.